Hi, welcome to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
Today, I am so excited because we have a special guest in a moment here. We're going to introduce her, but we're going to be talking with her about goal setting, which is something that I would love to get more information, more tips and strategies around in my life and business. So
that's why you're excited.
I'm excited.
You get so horny for goal setting.
I do. I have a notepad out, and I'm actually ready to take notes on my own podcast. That's how excited I am.
So let's introduce our amazing guest who's helping make you... No, I'm not going to say that. Who's helping make you horny. No, goal setting. Goal setting is making you horny. We have Rachael Rofé, and Rachael has been a friend for quite a few years. I just found out that she's been in internet marketing since 2006, which, as far as I'm concerned, is like a maven.
She's a grandmother.
Yeah, basically, she's been in internet marketing forever. And I'm going to read her bio because it expresses just how much she kicks ass. Her bio says, Rachael Rofé is a multiple best-selling author that's been featured in Entrepreneur, Women's World, and Fox News. Since she began internet marketing in 2006, she's developed over 30 products, 40 Kindle books, and bought and sold companies with as many as 120-plus employees. She speaks nationwide about copywriting, book creation, outsourcing, and product creation. And her favorite part, she does all of this while living the internet lifestyle, traveling the world and having fun. And what I think is really cool about Rachael is not only does she kick much ass in internet marketing, but I'm talking as if she's not right there. Rachael, your attention is now being focused from helping people build amazing businesses into personal development, helping people build amazing lives. Is that accurate?
Totally, yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
We're really excited to have you here.
Yeah, totally. And so we are talking about goal setting. So just to kind of frame this entire thing, why are you so... I'm going to ask Joel first. Why are you so excited about talking about goal setting?
I think because I have a lot of things I want to do in life, and I've got a lot of interests, and I chase a lot of opportunities, and I don't know how to prioritize very well yet. I'm still working. This is one of the things I'm doing in my personal development, prioritizing how to figure out what to put attention and focus on. And not only that, but what sequence to put attention and focus on things. And so it's kind of like, it's just, sometimes I really struggle with that. So I'm really excited about, I think I do a good job, but I think I could do a way better job than I already do.
Yeah. So. Well, and Rachael, you have just wrote a book on goal setting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now it's getting edited. And so it should hopefully be up within the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome. So I have to admit, I don't geek out about business stuff as much as Joel does. I totally geek out about like personal development stuff, which is probably why I didn't have much of a business before Joel showed up. Because Joel's like sort of he's the marketing, advertising, business geek. And I'm like, my head is totally into psychology books and that sort of thing. We've talked about it before. Like when we got together, we married libraries. And on my side is like all this stuff about like the mind and how the brain works. And on his side, it's all like creative work and marketing materials and that sort of thing. So I'm not as geeked out as Joel is, but I have a feeling that I have more to learn than Joel does because I think I'm more of a novice in this area. So can you break down sort of the basic formula, if formula is the right word, Rachael? Can you break down sort of the basic formula for somebody like me who has not inserted themselves as much into, business goal setting? Give us sort of like a simple maybe overview or formula that you're using to help people really do an amazing job of accomplishing and reaching their goals.
Yeah, so I think it depends on if you have goals already that you want to set out, because you can do personal development goals for sure. It doesn't need to be just business goals. It can be like you want to run a marathon, or it could be like one of my goals this month is just have 80 ounces of water every day, or write 3 thank you cards. Yeah, so it doesn't need to be just business. But if you don't have goals anyway, one of the first things that I like to do is just identify how you want to feel. And so I like to just go through and just kind of brain dump the ways where I feel the best, so maybe the most alive or the happiest, whatever, and just pick the feelings that I want to focus on. And so once I identify those feelings, then I can create goals around that. So let's say I want to feel, like one of my feelings that I want to feel is radiantly healthy. And so then I think about, well, what are some things that I can do in order to feel radiantly healthy? And so some of that might be just in this moment, like drink some more water. And some of it might be maybe in a year's time, I want to lose X amount of pounds, or like I said, run a marathon or have health kind of related goals. And then same thing for all different areas of your life. So maybe you have ones where you can feel radiantly healthy in business, and that might look like making sure to take time off from the computer, or whatever radiantly healthy looks like to you in your business. So then I just go through and I make goals, and I like to make them like ideally a year out. So like, where would I love to be in a year's time, keeping in mind that this is how I want to feel, because I don't want to set goals just for the arbitrary sake of like, people say that I should run a marathon, or people say I should have $1 million business. If that's not what I care about, like, I want to be feeling my best in every moment. So all my goals are going to be architected around that. And so once I have those goals, I just like to work backwards from them. So let's say, for example, we'll do the marathon thing, that I want to run a marathon in a year's time. Then I'm going to break down, well, what's it going to look like to do that? Like, what do I have to do to make that marathon happen? So maybe it's, I should like start running a certain amount of miles and have like a thing of miles that I should be running every month. And then I'll break that down even further into my daily to-do lists. So it might be like, set aside 30 minutes every day for running, or an hour every day for running. And then for a business example, like, one thing I might decide is maybe I want to be making $5,000 a month every month in passive income by this time next year. And I'm going to use this example because I think it explains it a little bit better. So what I would do then is, let's say, okay, I want to do $5,000 a month. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I just know that I'm clear that I want to make that money. Then the next thing I would do is just break, and that might be because I want to feel abundant, let's say. And so then I'll break down, well, what are some things that I could do to make $5,000 a month? And then I'll just brain dump everything. And I don't censor myself when I do this. It's just whatever comes up. So, and it could be like, I don't know, maybe I'll randomly like find a pile of money on the street every month. Maybe I'll run a membership site. Maybe I'll get a huge inheritance. Just boom, 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 list it all out. And then I just pick the one that aligns with the feelings that I want to feel the most, and that feels the most doable for me. And then I'll just work backwards. So let's say I want to have, like the example I used in the book, which I actually might not even put this example in the book. I might completely scrap it because I don't know that it's just going to be business people that are going to listen, but or that are going to read. So, but anyway, so we'll have, let's say I'm going to do the membership site. Then I'll break it down into, well, what needs to happen to have a membership site? So then I'll break that down. I'm going to need to have a website created. I'm going to need sales copy. I'm going to need a sales letter button. I'm going to need content. And I'll just boom, 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 list it all out. And then I'll go through and I'll make, and I hope this isn't sounding overwhelming, but
no, not at all.
This is great. I'm making a bunch of questions I'm going to ask you after you're all done. So keep going.
Okay, great. So then I know what I want to get done. And so then I'll look at my monthly themes. And so I'll break it down to, let's say, so I'll break down what needs to happen, and then make my daily to-do list from there. So for example, month 1, it might be, and this is going to be dependent upon whoever's listening, like what your skill level is, but month 1 might be, it's all about getting the website up and the content up. Or maybe it's just the website, and then the second month, the content. And then you get all the technical pieces, and you have your monthly goals. And then let's say I decide I need to have 250 people paying me, what is it, $20, or 500 people paying $20 a month. Then I'll just go through and I'll break down. And so the rest of the, no, I'm sorry, I did the math wrong. But anyway, I'm going to break down for each month, and I'm just going to say, like, I need to get X amount of members this month, X amount of members this month. And so now I have my monthly theme every single month. And then when I go to create my to-do lists, my to-do list is focused on what my goals are for each month. And so this way, it's just really helpful, because then I'm always working towards where I want to be. It's always in line with the feelings that I want to feel. And then it's very easy to, when people have opportunities for me, or like things come up, I can easily say yes or no if they're going to get me to my goal more. And I think that when you have that specific, like what you're working towards, it's just like it's so much easier to negate overwhelm. It's easy when you break things down and you see like, oh, I have to get this many members to make this amount of money, it can be super crazy. Like, what am I going to do? But when you know all you have to do for this month is just get the website up, and then you break your daily to-do list down to, today all I had to do, because to do for 30 days to just get that done. One day it might be just email the designer. One day it's just, like write an outline of what I want to have in the sales letter. Then it becomes so much more doable. And I think that when we do the bite-sized chunks, it's just way easier to make things actually happen, and that's when things happen. So I like. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I wanted you to finish. I apologize. I'm eager, but no, go ahead. If you had one more thing you want to say to kind of finish up, I don't want to derail your very ending there.
Oh no! The only other thing I was going to say is that I tell people to start with like 3 to 5 goals at the same time. I tend to do a lot more, but that's because I've kind of done this so many times now. So it doesn't need to be like you're only working on one thing all the time. But I just think that when you break it down, and it can even be actually another example that I gave in the book is just, what if you just say you have a goal like I want to improve my relationship, and it's hard to necessarily put a specific, like you can't say I want to improve my relationship by 500% or something. But even then, you could go through and just say, well, what does it look like to improve my relationship? Maybe my partner loves, like maybe he's a words of affirmation love language. So maybe it's giving him like writing love letters, or maybe it's, planning romantic dates for her, whatever it is. And then just scheduling your monthly, what you want to do each month, and then scheduling that in your daily to-do list. I think that once you create that framework, it just forces it to happen easily.
Cool. Okay. So you kind of just outlined the whole like process that you go through, and I think we both want to ask some questions about the specifics, but I guess that seems like that would work really well. What do you see, like, how are you seeing most people making goals? Like, or even yourself, how did you come about this? Were you doing something that wasn't working and then you switched to this? Or have you seen people making goals in an ineffectual way that you're like, I think this will work better, this process that I've come up with?
Well, I think one of the things that I see a lot of people doing, and I've definitely done it too, is just making arbitrary goals because you think you should, or I think I should. So like having the, $1 million business or something might be something where it sounds good to have the $1 million business, but maybe, that's just an arbitrary number. So is it really in line with what I want to be feeling? I don't know. Or, the $5,000 a month. Maybe you have a specific reason for that, and so that's why I gave that example. But sometimes it's not what you need. So I think I'm just getting really clear on how you want to feel, because the thing is, like on our deathbed, so many people who are on the deathbed, they talk about their greatest regrets being living their life for other people. And I think that when you identify the feelings that feel the best for you, then you're living your life on your terms. And so that's where to go with your goals, I think.
Okay. So really I love the way you phrase this. How do you want to feel? Like, to me, that, and of course, this is Personality Hackers, so we talk about personality types, and I'm a feeler type personality. So that super resonates with me. Does that resonate with you, Antonia, or is that more, I bet the clarity piece probably resonates with you because you're a thinker person, like getting clear about what you want more than how you want to feel. Would that be a truth statement, or?
Yeah, like when I have clarity, I feel like I'm on crack. So clarity is definitely, I mean, like in a good way, like, like I'm on meth in a good way. Like,
I mean, you're not on meth, but you feel like it.
Yeah, right. Like now I can pretty much do anything. Like I've got a cape. I'm Superwoman.
Without
clarity.
Your teeth falling out.
Yeah.
Your face falling off.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So clarity is definitely huge. But you just asked me a leading question. Is it okay if I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because what I think is so brilliant about this idea of figuring out which emotion you want to feel is, I mean, yes, I'm a thinker, and also I recognize that fundamentally everything is an emotion.
Yeah.
Like even the thoughts that I so clearly call up and rationalize and reason on, they're fundamentally just concentrated emotions that I want to experience. So. Yeah. I think everything is an emotion. Like that's the foundation of all of existence, of all human existence. So recognizing that and going, okay, well, since everything is fundamentally chasing an emotion anyway, which one do I want to feel? As opposed to being on the receiving end of some specific or some emotion, right? Like going, I'm going to go after this and then figure out whatever emotion it lets me experience. I'll figure that out when I get there.
Yeah.
Like, this is going the opposite direction. I think that's why, because basically, as I'm listening to you, you're talking about starting, Rachel, you're talking about starting at a 30,000 foot level, that sounds like to me, and then chunking down. chunking down to really specific granular terms. And then when you've got a list of all that granular chunk down, then all you have to do is focus on that for whatever your monthly theme is, which I think is brilliant. But the real gold, I believe, of this is that you aren't, you're not kidding yourself. You're trying to experience an emotion. That's what you're trying to do. And I think that that's the real gold. Like, acknowledging that the goal is the emotion, not this is the goal and whatever emotion it lets me feel when I get there, I'll just find out then. I think that that's brilliant. The major question I have, and I don't know if this is, too, throwing you too much of a curveball, but, and let me know if it is, but negative emotions have such a secondary payoff for us sometimes. Like, we get addicted to negative emotions sometimes, like righteous indignation or criticism or, whatever, negative emotion you're feeling, maybe sometimes victimhood or feeling sorry for yourself or feeling, limiting beliefs. Like, we experience these things because they carry with them emotions that are giving us secondary payoff. So when you are setting up your goal and, orchestrating the emotion that you want to feel at the end, Rachael, how do you combat those negative emotions that give you secondary payoff? Like, how do you deal with that piece?
That's such a good question. That's something else that I was writing about, is like when you're going through the goals and it's like, yeah, well, that sounds good, but there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. Or like, I just don't think this is attainable. Or I don't have the time. I think it's just asking yourself the right questions. So asking yourself, how can I make enough time to do this? Or how can I believe that I'm going to do this? Because I think that, so I actually have two answers to this, but for this part, it's like you just ask yourself for, I guess, the opposite of the negative feeling, and then let yourself come up with the answers. And so a lot of times I'll just brain dump everything that comes up until I find a solution that feels right. So does that part make sense?
So if I understand you correctly, then in order to not allow, like, and this is during the goal setting process, I'm assuming, like you're talking about at the very beginning. So you're setting a goal and you've got this emotion that you'd ultimately like to feel, and then all of the negative emotions that are giving you secondary payoff are already rearing their head. They're already showing up by saying you can't do that. And in order to get through that piece, that time period of the very beginning, you ask yourself the right question, and I guess I missed, like, you said you write down everything that's coming up for you.
Yeah, so
Okay.
for an example, when I was coming up with my goals last month, I had a lot of goals that I wanted to get done. And so as I was writing them out, I was thinking, like, how can I make this happen in a way where I think that if I do all this stuff, then I'm going to just feel like a total workaholic. It's going to suck. I'm going to have no fun. Like, it's just not going to not be good. And so then I thought, okay, well, I'm getting, that I'm feeling this. And I asked, how can I do this? How can I make all of this stuff happen in a way where I don't feel like a total workaholic and I actually make sure to have fun? And so then I came up with all these answers. Some of the things that I decided to do, number one, was I kept a fun log. And so every day I would just write down things that I did to have fun. So I put attention towards that. So that was really helpful. I asked myself, like, I had the question, how can I make sure that I'm having fun? And I put it on my computer desktop as a wallpaper to keep that kind of present for me. And what else did I do? There were a few other things that I did, like booking massages in advance or planning out things in advance to just make sure that I didn't become what I didn't want to be. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So basically then, in order to, during the goal setting piece, in order to stave off the the negative emotions that might have secondary payoff, you basically set up a system of reminders so that when you're going through, to get to that end game emotion, that end result positive emotion, that you precede it. You set up the circumstances so that you have like constant reminders popping up for you. Like, oh, when I go brush my teeth, here's the make sure to have fun Post-it note on my mirror. And, oh, that's right, I have an appointment for a massage today. So like at the point where you recognize that like this is going to happen in the future, you just account for that by planting things that will remind you to keep focused on the positive emotion. Is that accurate?
Yeah. And then the other thing is, when I feel negative emotions, I've gotten to a place now where when I feel negative, I can't say I'm 100%, but when I feel negative emotions, a lot of the time I'll recognize it in the moment and I'll ask myself where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. And then I'll just try to go in that moment and instead of kind of responding from trigger or from subconscious, like try to go into my perspective, my perspective function, and look at how I can get out of that. So that might look like, why am I doing this? What's the like, why did I do this in the past, and how can I react now? What would be the most empowering way to get through this moment? And just go from a moment by moment basis if that happens.
Cool. Okay, can you kind of walk through a little exercise with me then for right now, Rachel? So if I'm understanding what you're saying, so let's say I had this goal, and I'm guessing it's kind of like you have a goal and you have a feeling, and you kind of work in tandem with each other to get to what you're actually talking about. So let me walk through this, and you tell me if this is how you approach it, because I think I'm getting a picture of how you go about this. So let's say I have the goal of becoming a published author. Like, I want to get my book published and have it be a New York Times bestseller. And then I kind of ask myself, well, why? What am I trying to feel by being a New York Times bestseller? And maybe my feeling is, well, or maybe I want to do that because I want to be invited to public speaking events or something. Maybe that's why I want to become an author. And I'm like, well, what is the emotion I'm going after that? Well, I want people to like me and clap for me when I give a great talk. And then I'm like, well, why do I want that? What is the emotion I'm trying to get to there? And I say, well, it's because I want to be seen as somebody who knows what they're talking about, or I want to be somebody who's able to teach people something. I want to feel good about giving back. And is this kind of the process you'd walk through as your goal setting? So then you get to the point of, well, maybe it's not that I want to write a book, it'd be a New York Times bestseller. Maybe I actually want to just be a public speaker. And I'm like, I think that in order to do that, I have to write a book, and that's my goal. But what I really want is to be a public speaker, because that's actually what I want to feel good about. Is that kind of what you're talking about when you're saying about the feeling thing?
You can do it that way. The way that I usually do it is identify the feelings first.
Okay.
And so, like, maybe I realize that I want to feel respected. And then I look at, well, what are the different ways that I can feel respected? Maybe it's becoming a New York Times bestseller. Maybe it's becoming a public speaker. And then I'll just go through and just pick ones. And the reality is, like, there's lots of different ways that you can feel the feelings that you want. So you can't necessarily, like, you're not... It's not necessarily like one or the other. But the other thing is, once you're going after those feelings, sometimes you realize that the thing that you were going after, like, even if you don't get those things, you still feel really good about the fact that you've been in service of your feeling the entire time. Does that make sense?
That is powerful.
Yeah.
That is, like, I'm taking note of this right now, because that is powerful to because when you said about feelings, I was thinking, okay, we kind of have a goal, and then you figure out what your feeling behind that goal was. But if you start with the feeling, I don't even know what that would look like yet. I've got to do some experimenting with this. But I think that's really powerful, what you just said.
And I liked that you used the phrase that that you're in service of your feelings.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that I probably have a knee-jerk reaction to, like, well, I don't want to be in service of my feelings. The truth is that we're in service of our feelings whether we know it or not. So let's be thoughtful about it. Let's be conscientious. Let's determine the feeling first and then be in service of that. And I think what's great is that you're also giving honor to those feelings. Like the feeling that I want to be respected. If you hold that and just go, well, there's no dishonor in wanting to be respected. So, okay, so I'm going to honor that feeling, and I'm going to create a goal around experiencing that feeling of being respected. I think that that's really, we talk about permission, that's really giving yourself permission to feel certain feelings that we know will make us ultimately feel good, feel happy. And I think that it's really good.
Yeah, and then the thing is, as you're doing your goals, so as you have your goals that are going to help you feel respected, as you're doing them, you do them in a way that makes you feel respected. So then you ask yourself, well, how can I do that? How can I feel respected as I'm going towards this ultimate goal? And so maybe that looks like every day you have an accountability partner who you tell what you did, and they say, great job, and then you feel respected. I mean, it could look like a whole bunch of different ways, but the thing is, we're just always acting how we want to be feeling, so that we can't ever have a day where we don't feel good, really.
Yeah.
We're always acting how we want to be feeling. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great statement.
That's a great statement. And so you weave in the end result feeling into all of the actions as well. So it's not like, I'm going to get respect when I get to my goal. It's no, I want to feel respected, so I'm going to create a goal around it that ensures that I'm also feeling that every day as I get to that goal. That's smart.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
I should say, Danielle Laporte talks about this too. She has a book called, what is it? soul map or something. She like, I think we kind of independently came to this stuff, but every time I talk about it, I feel like, oh man, because she's talked about this so much. So she has an entire book that's amazing about it.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, thanks for giving credit to somebody else too. But I also could see you coming to this conclusion. I mean, you've accomplished. Like, we kind of talk about you behind your back as like a total and complete workhorse. Is that accurate, Joel? When we refer to Rachel, we're just like, she just gets shit done. Like, how does she do it? Like, she's just accomplished so much. And every time I see or talk to you, you're like, yeah, and I did these 20 things that I'm just talking about casually, but would have taken you like night and day for a year to make happen. So I think just like independently, we have high respect for how you get things done. And so to hear your process, that makes sense because you're going about it in a really,
a very unique way.
Very unique and very interesting way.
So, Rachel, you are the type of person, I'm guessing, that likes to have some structure to your life. You like to have kind of a plan to work, right? You probably are a list maker, because I know your personality, so I'm assuming some of these things about you. Tell me if I'm wrong. So you're the kind of person that has a lot of like lists and, you chunk things down from like a monthly, weekly, daily, like action plan. And my question is, what happens if goal setting itself makes you feel bad? Like sometimes when I set goals like that and I get chunked down and then I miss a day, and so it throws my whole plan off, and then I'm like, I feel so bad about myself. I didn't stay on my task, and now I'm more of a sprinter, and I'm guessing you're probably more of a marathon runner in your life, Rachel. I don't know, but Antonia and I are kind of sprinters. We work in like really concentrated chunks, and it's really hard to do some of the things you're talking about, like practically stretching out those goals over a period of time. But that's how you get things done. So do you have any advice on maybe how I could become more like you or do something about the way I go about it, I guess?
It doesn't need to be like you have the daily to-do list. I mean, what it could be is you have your week theme or whatever. It could be a month, and then you just write down everything that needs to happen in that month or everything that needs to happen in that week in order for you to get forward with your goal. And then you just sprint at your pace. So maybe one day you do 10 of those tasks, and one day you do only 2 of those tasks or none of those tasks. I think that would probably be the better way to go for you. And also, you don't have to do the year out goals, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes if someone's saying they want to have, like, I don't know, let's say $100,000 a month every month, it's hard to say, okay, well, you're going to come up with a plan to do that in 3 months time from now. Sure. But if you could do it in 3 months, great, make that your goal.
I think your goal needs to be self-acceptance, Joel. That's the emotion you need to weave in.
There you go.
So when you're sprinting,
I can feel good about it.
You can feel good about it.
I love this idea of feeling good about what you're doing. Like, that's just,
too.
It's a great concept. Explain more about this idea of themes, Rachel. I like this, like theming your week or your month. What do you mean by that specifically? Like, give me more on that.
Okay, so I'm actually just going to open up the book that I took like 4 different goals and I broke them down. And I think if I actually read them to you, it might be really helpful.
Okay.
All right, so the first one that I talked about is the $5,000 a month thing. And so then I thought, what's going to happen? So like month 1, it might be figure out the niche I want to be in and how I can best serve the market and get a website up. Month 2, get a month's worth of content up. Get month 3, make sure all the technical pieces are in place, get 20 beta members. Month 4, adjust the content according to feedback. Make a plan on how to make sure that enough content goes out each month. It's for a membership site. Month 5, get 20 members. Month 6, get 20 members. Month 7, 30 members. 8, 30 members. Month 9, 30 members. Then 30 members, month 10 and 11. Queue up 3 months worth of content. And then month 12, get 40 members. So I've just kind of broken down exactly what needed to happen for each month. And then when I break down the daily to-do list, or it could be the weekly or whatever, like the daily to-do list that I put in the book are, number 1 might be day 1, brainstorm 20 ideas of niches that sound good to me. Day 2, look on ClickBank and see which niches do well. Whittle down to my 3 best options and pick the one that seems the best to me. Day 3, join 5 forums, make 2 posts in each group. Like, does that make sense? Just really drilling down?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're kind of working through this process. Where, like, do you do this? Do you kind of do it on a monthly basis? Like at the beginning of every month, you take the theme and then you break it down then, or do you do it all at the very beginning, or do you do it weekly? How do you actually go about chunking that down?
Well, I guess it depends on the goal that you have. For this one, it's a year one, so I break down what's going to happen each month, and then I do my daily to-do lists on a like monthly basis or a weekly basis. It just depends really on how I feel. So I don't like to do the weekly and dailies super far in advance, because if you have a goal that's super far out, then you're probably going to know more than you did when you first set out the goals. And of course, you can adjust the months too. Like if you make things happen faster or slower than you thought you would, and then just adjust. I think the other thing that's really helpful is to have like measurable checkpoints around what your goals are. So if I say that by month 6, I want to have 60 members, it's nice to just be able to see where am I with that, and do I need to make course corrections.
What would you say? I don't know if you have more to say on this, Rachael. I'm going to go just a slight different path. I would really love to know what some of your biggest challenges were when you were learning, you know, like, because I mean, at this point, you're a pro at setting and accomplishing goals. My guess is that this was something that you had to figure out over time. Like, you didn't just come out of the blister packaging with like, dun dun dun, I'm an amazing goal, you know, accomplisher. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you were coming up with this system? And do you still face some challenges? What would those be?
Well, I mean, I think one of the biggest things that I struggled with was when I first started internet marketing. I got one of these ebooks, like make $1 million a minute in your underwear while you're sleeping. And it actually worked. Like I was making $500, $800 a day for my very first day for months. And then what happened was I got on some internet marketer lists, and I started learning about all these different business models. And so even though I was making really good money with this one thing, I just started diverting and going from here to here, ping pong everywhere. And my income just tanked. And like you would think that I'd just be like, okay, if my income's higher over here, I should just be focusing on that. But it's so easy to get derailed. And so that was definitely a really big problem. And I think now that I have the goal setting schedule and I know where I want to go, it's just really helpful to just have that, so I know to say no to things, and I can just like unsubscribe from the lists and do the like get rid of the stuff that's just periphery, that's not really where I'm wanting to go. And I think the other thing is it can be easy to just be like, all right, whatever, I have this goal, like I don't want to move towards it or whatever, like I'd rather lay in bed today. And one of the things that's really helpful with that is just having some accountability around the goal. So just having someone to talk to about, here's what my week goals are, and I did them or I didn't do them, or here's my month goals. So I think those would be some of the biggest problems. And then the second part was, what am I struggling with now? I mean, sometimes life just happens. So like today I'm looking at my to-do list, and I have usually I say have 3 to 5 things on there, but I have like 9 things today because some of them are really small. And we had the movers come in and we're moving houses, and they took a much longer time than I expected, and I thought that my boyfriend would be able to direct them once they got here, but he was on a call, so it just like ate up a bunch of my day. And so my natural inclination is to just kind of beat myself up and get a little like annoyed that I haven't done things. But I'm just going to go through my weekly to-do list and just I'm going to do whatever I can today. And then I'm just going to take those different things and put them on different days for the rest of the week.
Yeah. So the challenge is that life gets in the way, and you just got to keep plugging on.
Yeah, and usually I do my best to make that not happen. So like I know for me, my peak time is 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. And so from those hours, like I'll have woken up earlier, I'll get my morning routines out of the way, I'll have my morning walk, I'll have my breakfast, whatever. I don't schedule any calls or anything during 7 to 12. Maybe I'll go to Starbucks, or I'll go to my office and just ask my boyfriend not to come in. And he knows now 7 to 12, that's my time. So normally I'm good. Normally I set up those routines so that doesn't happen. But when life happens, I just have to course correct in a way where I'm not beating myself up about it too much, because that's not really benefiting anybody.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think what you said there about knowing yourself, knowing that 7 to 12 is your peak time, I think a big part of getting your goals accomplished is working with self-knowledge, like understanding how you operate and accommodating that. Yeah. We were just having a conversation around running a business with a small child, and what I've had to learn is to be extremely flexible in when I catch time in order to work. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge, but then at the same time, it's like I kind of know how I operate, and so I'm working with that while having to sort of navigate, life that's happening to you. So yeah, I think self-knowledge, self-mastery is really huge.
I think so. Kind of. I know we need to wrap up, Rachel, because you got to go, and I really appreciate you being with us today. Can you kind of close us out by giving us maybe, and if you have this, either the big mindset shift around goal setting, or kind of that, like if you had like a minute to tell somebody about goal setting, what would you say? And also, if there's anything else you wanted to add to that. So kind of give us that, like, you're on an elevator and literally they'd say, hey, tell me about goal setting. What's your highest thing that I should know? And the elevator's ready to open, and in 1 minute, you got to say it. What would you say?
Okay, and if you have other questions, I can stay on a little bit longer. You don't have to feel rushed. But the minute I would say would be that a lot of people often wake up and they feel like they're a victim of their circumstances, and life just kind of happens to them, and you have a choice. I mean, well, the kind of tagline that I say a lot is, if you have a choice, you can choose a better life. And if you have a choice being, sometimes there's people in like third world countries or something where there's really circumstances where they don't have a choice. But for most of us, like if you're listening to the podcast, you're probably in a position where you have a choice about things. And if you have a choice, you can choose a better life. And goal setting is going to help you have that life, because if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get to where you want to be. So being able to have an actual plan and a methodology to get to where you want to be is going to be the thing that's going to make you see the results that you want.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
How do people get their hands on your book?
So that will be out, like I said, hopefully soon. If you do a search on Amazon.com for Rachael Rofé, I have a few books up already under my name and a bunch under pen names, but hopefully it'll be up by then. Or if you go on RachelRofé.com, it will probably be on my products page.
So Rachael and then ROFE.
Yep.
Okay, RachelRofé.com, and it'll be under your books. And I have one more curiosity question. If that's
sure,
okay.
Totally.
And this is purely self-indulgent, by the way. This may or may not have anything to do with what we're talking about. But you are at a point right now where you have built and established a name and a brand for yourself online. And I have been really interested lately in people who build a name for themselves dealing with naysayers, like people who leave bad reviews, or people who are, the haters, or however you want to say it. When you get negative reviews. Now, my brother had a really great thing to say around this. But I'm like, for people who have gotten a measure of success where they're going to get both good and negative reviews, I'm just really curious because and this is how I think it relates. I think one of the reasons why we don't set big goals for ourselves is we fear success. And I think this is one of the things that has us fearing getting to our goals. If we make impact, if we're successful, now we're going to get a lot of attention to ourselves. And how do we deal with that? So as somebody who is at that level, what are some of the ways that you deal with the fact that there's always going to be some anonymous asshole on the internet who's going to, talk crap about you? Like, how have you dealt with, come to terms with, rationalize, or maybe just have like this incredible aha that has you dealing with, like actual success?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways. That's a great question. I mean, so I guess it depends on the circumstance. So I'll give you a couple different answers for different things. Like one example is on my Facebook page, a lot of time I'll just post like positive things. Of course, I mean, my life isn't perfect, but I don't really people can get enough negativity on their own, so I like to just post about positive things and do my part in making people's experiences a little bit better. So I always post things that just make me happy or maybe make other people happy. So one of the things that I posted a couple of months ago was that my boyfriend and we were in, I think it was Jamaica, and he just planned out this amazing dinner where we had dinner on the beach. It was like our own little beach. It's amazing. There were rose petals to the table, and it was just such a fabulous night. We got to see the sun, like the sunset and everything. It was just incredible. And so I posted about it, and someone went and he made a video reading what I said, like in a really corny voice, and he put in this cheesy background music. And so I was getting all these compliments. Oh, that sounds so awesome. You're inspiring, whatever. And then I get this video. And so the first thing that I felt was just like really embarrassed and really kind of humiliated. Like it didn't feel good to read that. And so the first thing that I did was I have a mastermind that I'm in, and I think that having a support system is just awesome. So I went in there and I just told them about it, and even really just getting to share it real quick and say how it was making me feel. Like that's usually all I need is to just have a second to self-express, and then I can come in and be like, okay, it's really not that big of a deal. And actually, after, so I said it, and they were all like, I'd be pissed too, or don't worry, like this is just a natural thing when you shine your light. This is going to happen, whatever. But being able to say it was really helpful. And then a couple of days later, I watched the video and I was actually laughing. Like it really was funny. But I just, so that's one part of it, is just having people that I can talk to. Definitely dissipated the intensity of it. Sometimes it's just acknowledging that there's always going to be people that say things, and to use am I being true to myself as a compass? So like another example is I posted on Facebook a couple of days ago that I was walking the Vegas Strip and I kept seeing all these homeless people that didn't have water, and it really bothered me. I think because I'm so sensitive to heat. So so I ended up I kept buying water and giving it out, and I was like, well, I mean, there's more. I keep seeing all these people that don't have water. I can't do it all myself. So it really bothered me to the point where I'm sitting here on the Vegas Strip crying, thinking what am I going to do for these people? And so I woke up the next day and I had this idea to hire somebody on Craigslist to just go through and walk the strip, and once a day or twice a day, just hand out water to people. And it ended up that I could do it really cheaply, like $100 a week and plus water. And I know that all these people are getting the water that I think they need. So, and I was I was just really happy that it was so easy to make a change. And so I posted about it in hopes that I would inspire people to realize that you don't have to be a victim of the circumstances, even if it's not yours. If you see these people struggling and you want to do something about it, because I had been telling my mastermind, I'm sitting here crying in Vegas, maybe I'm not cut out for Vegas, yada, yada. But then I realized there was a better way. So I posted about that. And some guy, and I got all these oh, this is amazing, inspiring, whatever. And then this one guy writes about how charity, or something about how you shouldn't talk about your charity if you want to go to heaven. It's a religious kind of thing. And so at this point, I really felt good about myself for having done this and having and I was glad to post about it, because I feel like posting about it is sometimes charity, because I know that a lot of the posts that I make, people will write to me and they tell me that they feel inspired by them. They'll make changes. Soon after that, I had somebody else go and say that he was inspired by another post and he paid for these kids Slurpees at 7-Eleven who didn't have money. And so I just knew that my internal compass was I was doing what I felt was in line with the best version of myself, and it wasn't coming out of a place of wanting people to say, oh, Rachel, you're so great, but it was I knew it was in line with wanting to inspire people, wanting to make the world a better place. And so when I have that, I can just go against my internal barometer and be dude, I don't really care. And to me it's well, that's a whole side note about religion, but so that's definitely the other thing, is just going against my internal compass and knowing and realizing that sometimes it is true. The more you shine your light, of course, there's going to be people that don't like it for one reason. And I think that's when you can really just check back against who you know that you are and who you want to be. And the last thing I would say is, or did you want to say anything? I know I'm just rambling.
No. I love your rambling. That's what I wanted. I totally wanted you to give me your checklist of how to deal with this.
Yeah, of course, it would be a checklist.
You have one now.
Yeah.
And you're not on number 3. Keep going.
That's how I write too. It's A, B, C. So anyway, C is just sometimes it can be good feedback. When I first started publishing Kindle books, I was publishing them and I didn't know too much about the process. And so I had really bad formatting on some of my books, not realizing that I couldn't just put in a doc file. And so I started getting negative reviews about the way that the books looked. And so she's okay, so I'll ask myself whenever I get negative feedback, is this coming from, is there truth in this? And if there's truth in this, then how can I address that? And so for the formatting, I ended up actually creating a software that formatted Kindle books, because at the time there was nothing that I could find that did that. And it ended up being now, I made it a couple of years ago and sold thousands upon thousands of copies for all these authors that have this struggle. So it was really good feedback, and I was able to do something from it. And the same thing, if people say that certain points aren't addressed in a course maybe or whatever, then if they have a valid point, then I'll welcome it and I'll address it.
Yeah. So basically, then what you do with negative feedback is you first vet it for, helpfulness. Like it might not have anything to do with malintent on the part of the person. I mean, nothing really is fundamentally malintent generally, but it's whether or not somebody's being critical for the sake of being critical for what's going on for them, or whether or not they're actually giving you constructive criticism and you can do something about it. So you first vet for that. And then if it falls in the category of constructive, then you take action. And if it falls in the category of destructive criticism, then you rest into yourself and use a team of people around you to diffuse any sort of intense emotion and to sort of rely on your peeps. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think that this is sort of the fundamental example of, as you gain success, as you scale up, as you make a bigger impact on the world, it's so important to make sure that your development is keeping pace with your financial success or with your with your maybe
public.
Online, your public success, basically, that you make sure that you have enough inside of you to rest upon so that when you get criticism back, it's not devastating. It's either, like you said, it's one of those two categories. It's constructive and I can do something about it, or it's not. And, I've got now systems to be able to deal with that. I think that's brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for indulging me and answering that question.
So Rachel, thanks again. Thanks again for being on. I have a whole page of notes, and I'm very excited. And thanks for some of the side conversations here, like about dealing with that. And so it's RachelRofé.com, ROFE.com, that people can find you, and they can also search you on probably Google. Will come up with a bunch of results, and Amazon. And all sorts of neat stuff that you got out there. I love the fact that we were talking earlier, like, how are we going to introduce her? Because it's not like one business that you run or one thing that defines you as a person.
Yeah.
You truly are kind of like, I don't know, a Renaissance woman. I mean,
That's
seriously,
right.
like you do so much and you're not defined by what you do. You're defined by who you are, and you're an awesome person. And we really appreciate you being with us today. So
Totally.
That's really cool to have
So
here.
cheers.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
You can also find out more about us at personalityhacker.com. Follow us at facebook.com/personalityhacker or twitter.com/personalityhack, HACK. And this has been a great podcast for Personality Hacker. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
We will talk to you on the next episode.